So the Triple Crown is ours. And as Irish fans, we're all really happy about that. We are, aren't we? Anyway, it's time to start harping on rugby. Hello, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to Harpin On Rugby, where with the help of some fellow fans, I get the chance to harp on what's going on with Leinster, Ireland, and the wider rugby world. Now, I've just the one contributor joining me this week. It's someone doing a Ryan Baird, as he's a late replacement to our Match Wrap squad. He's also back for a second week in a row. He's the owner of the site Post to Post Sport, making pod appearance number 31 and overall contribution number 197. Welcome back to Mr. Kieran Duffy.
Yeah, I'm pushing that 200 overall contribution. I don't know if the IRFU podcast section recognizes these types of things, but
We'll come up with a commemorative jersey and a scarf and all that kind of stuff. I think that's in order. I'll get onto the merch department. Okay, so listen, let's crack on with our feature match of the week, which was, of course, Wales v Ireland in round 3 of the 2025 Guinness Six Nations. It was played at the Principality Stadium on Saturday, February 22nd. There was a late replacement to the Ireland 23 as illness to Cian Prendergast meant that he had to be replaced in the number 20 jumper by Ryan Baird. The weather conditions in Cardiff were of absolutely no relevance at all as the roof was closed. And after the anthems and pageantry, it was Sam Prendergast for the white jersey wearing Ireland side getting the match underway, Kira.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk about arrogance from Ireland. I don't think the team itself was arrogant. I think maybe there was in some areas of fandom. I think generally speaking, most fans were expecting to win the game, as should have been, just based on form. But at the same time, for me personally, I was a bit more anxious about it. This is something I wrote on Rugby Bullets, one of our regular features on Post Post Sport. For the game against Wales, I'm not as confident as I would have been before Gatland left. Wales were going nowhere. Now there is a potential for a new manager bounce. Ireland will still beat them. Ireland should still beat them. I didn't say will, I said should. But it would be typical Wales to turn into the 1987 All Blacks in round 3. With France to come, 5 points is important, but it's a potentially frustrating fixture. If Ireland do things right, there shouldn't be an issue versus Wales, but it's a round 3 game after a break week with an interim coach against a side that has been on an awful run of form with a new coach. It would be the kind of unlikely upset to derail a hunt. I'm remembering Ireland upsetting England in 2017 and England doing the same to Ireland last season. Both occasions, the inverse result would have been banked on. So while I think a lot of people were confident Ireland would win, I was maybe a little more anxious, and I think that proved to be the correct feeling, I think, by the end of the game. But kick off, Wales knock on early enough, so it's a scrum to Ireland. Doesn't go great. It's a reset. Ref says make sure you're not over leaning, and it ends up in a penalty to Wales after reset. So the scrum, we weren't doing well in the first half at all. Possibly because I don't think this front three, certainly not for Ireland, but I think even for Leinster, hadn't played together that much. And in fact, Porter was the one who conceded the early penalty. So this Wales front row were doing well. Touch judges only made the call. It looked kind of 50-50, but I can see how it was given anyway either way. And from what we've seen later, maybe it was more Wales deserving of the penalty. So Anscombe kicks the touch. Obviously, he's back in. I think it was the first start since Wales actually won the him in the Six Nations, or certainly in a while. Wales were looking more purposeful than they had a few weeks ago. So one thing I'd say is they were just playing with more intent against Italy. Well, against France they were non-existent, but against Italy there was an element of waiting for Italy to let them into the game. They were more proactive here. But Ireland put in a good turnover, really good counter ruck by Mac Hansen, and Jack Conan, who I think had a great game, did well. And Ringrose kicks through in a good position. It's a 50-22, so it's a line out to Ireland. And Ireland play it out to the left from the line out. Lowe nearly gets over to the line. And Ireland get a penalty. Faletau not rolling away. Toby Faletau seemed to be a big player for Wales, as he often is. They seem to be aiming for him in the line outs a lot. But there's another line out for Ireland, and this is where the first try of the game comes. Tyke Byrne, who once again a massive game. I know he can play in the back row. I think lock is his best position, and he's big in the line out. Maul goes down. Henshaw managed to keep the ball alive. Byrne again has a good carry, and I think we go about six phases before Joe McCarthy gets close to the line. Really big. That's what you need Joe McCarthy for, and you could argue for Leinster you probably don't start Joe McCarthy and RG Steinman together. You probably start one of them and put one on the bench because one starts, makes an impact, one comes off the bench, makes a big impact. But Gibson Park manages to play it out to Jack Conan, and Conan does really well to get to the line and touchdown. He had to reach over. He was being tackled, but he manages to reach down and keep the ball in hand. Conversion, not the easiest, but Prendergast manages to kick it. That's Conan's 12th try in 40 caps and it's only his eighth Six Nations start, which is a surprising stat for me. But I think a big thing is he's had so many injuries, so he probably should have more than 40 caps. But also, he's such a big impact player that he doesn't tend to start. So it'll be interesting to see what Leinster do if everyone's fit, or what Ireland do in November if everyone's fit. But Wales restart and it goes down the middle. Ireland claim and Gibson Park finds a good touch for a Wales line out, and again it's thrown down the middle. Anscombe kicks wide. Anscombe wasn't afraid to stretch play here with his kicks, in fairness, and this is what I mean by Wales being more proactive. They didn't seem to be afraid to make mistakes or play risky rugby, and I think that ultimately stood to them. Obviously, we know Ireland won in the end, but at the same time, it would have been a hammering if Wales weren't playing a bit more, playing positively like this. So Wales go through 9 phases here, but concede a penalty. It was a tip tackle on Tyke Byrne, and Prendergast kicks the touch. And from here, things start to turn a little bit in Wales' favour. I think Ireland started pretty well, and you were thinking early try, surely Ireland push on here, but Ireland have a line out, goes to the tail, and eventually Henshaw knocks on. If he claimed it there was space. He kind of knocked it on into James Lowe. So if he had managed to claim it, it would have been very difficult to offload. But if Ireland had managed to keep the ball, there was plenty of space on the other side. So it was a scrum to Ireland, and Wales once again win a penalty. This time it's against Thomas Clarkson, and they kick the touch. So the scrum, and fairness, as poor as Wales were in the opening 2 rounds, their scrum wasn't too bad. So it's a real weapon for them. Wales have the line out, thrown over the top. Van der Fleer manages to claim. Prendergast kicks wide to Hansen, who chips forward. Now, this was another half a chance. Osborne and Gibson Park chase it, but Wales managed to secure the ball and get it clear. Watching it back, Hansen kind of had to juggle the ball a little bit. He didn't catch it very cleanly. I think if he catches that quickly and manages to get it to the boot quicker, then it's probably a much smoother move, and Osborne and Gibson Park have a chance. But he kind of had to take an extra second out of it and took an extra bit of pace off the ball. From there, it's an Ireland line out to go to the front, and Prendergast kicks through. We seem to be working towards stretching the play a lot off line outs. We move quickly to the left and to the right rather than up the middle. But Prendergast kicks through, and Blair Murray on the other side puts in a good clearing kick. He was under pressure there, so I just think he had a decent enough game. Then Ireland have a line out and go to the front once again. Wales weren't awake here. That was one time they kind of switched off in this first half, and there was again Ireland are stretching the play, and Conan does well to make a few yards. Ball comes to Lowe, who has Josh outside him. Probably need to play the offload. It was a difficult one because there was a little hint of a gap there, and it is the kind of thing James Lowe knows how to do to break through that gap. Maybe even go into a tackle and play the pass, draw 2 defenders in. But Josh was outside of me, thinking again maybe there was a gap there. But things still looking positive for Ireland. But from there, Wales have a scrum, and again, it's a penalty. So 3 penalties from 3 scrums to Wales, and they kick down the line. So Wales have another line out. It's thrown to the tail, and Anscombe puts in a kick, which Osborne does well to take. Was critical of Osborne last week for Leinster against Ospreys. I think he had a much better game this time around. The ball comes to Prendergast, who does a good step and clearing kick. Anscombe kicks back, and Blair Murray manages to get back on the Welsh side in the air. Eventually, the ball goes loose, and Henshaw claims it. Gibson Park gets the ball and puts in a kick. It's a bit too much on it. Probably the one mistake Gibson Park made in the whole game. The ball just bounced over the try line. Mee touches it down. Wales were forced into a change here, so Garrett Thomas had to come on the front row. But again, Wales were just starting to sneak back into the game a little bit. They certainly weren't letting Ireland run away with it as maybe was expected. So eventually there's another scrum to Wales just after that because Osborne knocks it on, and this time it's actually a penalty to Ireland. I think the key thing was here Ireland moved forward a little bit, so the ref and the touch judge probably decided that it was Wales who conceded the penalty because Ireland were moving forward. Penalty right in front of the post. Sam Prendergast kicks it. That's the sensible decision because I think we weren't having it all our own way. You could go to the line out there and give Wales a big confidence boost by holding you up, but I think 10-0, 10-0 was a good return there, and as we'll see, if those penalty kicks were crucial towards the end of the game. So eventually from there, Tyburn claims the restart, but it's knocked on off an Irish hand, and Wales gather possession. We can see the soft penalty here in front of the post, and that just lets Garrett Anscombe kick 3 points, and again they get in, they just get pull back those 3 points easy enough. And to be honest, that was a pretty soft one to concede because I think that's something that we won't get away with as much against France if we give those very scoreable opportunities. But Ireland have a line out just after that, and O'Mahony had a super game. A couple of turnovers, big tackles. He was a big player for us today. I know there were always questions about him starting. I think it was important he did start because without Doris playing, you needed that extra bit of leadership, I think. And Gibson Park puts in a long kick, and Wales play through a few hands. Again, Wales playing with a lot of confidence, and they managed to get a line out in a good position. And eventually, off that line out, the scrum half Williams knocks it on. Pass actually looks forward, but it's a scrum to Ireland. It's reset, and Conan manages to take it off the back. Gibson Park plays it to Lowe, who kicks long to touch, and it's a good relieving kick. So again, Wales pin back, and you're thinking maybe there's a chance for Ireland something here. And just to fast forward a little bit, Wales win the line out, but eventually Ireland get the ball back, and it's an Ireland line out. We take it into the middle of the pitch. Hansen plays an excellent pass to Jamie Osborne. Todd Hansen had an excellent game. He was kind of playing like a bit of a playmaker in this match. Ringrose is outside him, and this is a turning point in the game because if Osborne just plays a simple pass to Ringrose, then Gary's in there and touches down. You're thinking probably game over. It's not a good pass at all. There's way too much on it. It goes into touch. Ringrose can't gather it. And yeah, it goes out. And from there, that was probably a turning point in the first half because as we'll see, Wales kind of find their way back up the pitch and manage to score. So Wales have a scrum near the touchline. Front row goes down, but the ball's played out. And again, Wales playing with a lot of energy here. They're trying to play through the hands a lot. They're not going straight into contact. They're playing a couple of passes and then going into contact. Ireland's line speed is good, keeping them back a little bit and forcing them to kick at times. And eventually Ireland have a line out. But from there, Ireland concede a penalty for holding on the ground, and it's a Welsh line out who they win their own line out. Osborne puts in a huge tackle on Thomas when there was space, and Wales probably were in there. They go up to 12 phases and concede another penalty in front of the post. It's very kickable, and they do kick it. I was thinking, do they go to touch here to try level things up, or do they go to kick? And I think it was a sensible decision to kick because Ireland were defending well. But here, the noticeable moment, another game-changing moment. The TMO was looking at the tackle from Ringrose, head-on-head contact, yellow card. Wasn't a straight red, but in fairness, it was a poor tackle. There was nothing malicious in it, but it was poor tackle technique. Unlike Gary Ringrose, he usually is quite good at tackling. But a head-on-head contact, so it went up to be reviewed, and Garrett Anscombe kicks a penalty. So suddenly Ireland down to 14. Lead is cut to 4 points. Ireland restart, and Wales managed to take the lead from here. So it's batted back. The restart is batted back on the Ireland side by Mac Hansen. Commentators were saying he could have caught it, but at first I think he would have been isolated if he had have, and it just would have been a turnover. Ireland had a penalty advantage from here, and we eventually go for the posts from a long way out. Prendergast hits the post from there, and again that was a big moment. Probably a right decision to try run down the sin bin clock, but at the same time, in hindsight, it was a long way out. It didn't. It had the legs. It just hit off the ball, so it just didn't quite have the direction. So Wales played their way up the pitch, win another penalty off a scrum from Ireland, and kick the touch. So it's a Welsh line out close to the 5 metre line. It's about 6 or 7 metres out. Wales win the line out through Faletau. Byrne put in a good competition, but couldn't get a hand on it. The maul is set, and it's a penalty advantage from him for coming in from the side. Thomas Williams breaks off and almost gets over. Pass to the other side. Van der Fleer manages to intercept, but we come back for the penalty. So Wales go for the corner again, rightfully so, because that tactic was working as it did for Ospreys last week. So Wales have a line out 5 metres out. It's one at the front. The maul set again. The backs all join in. It's nearly a 15-man wall at some stage. Probably about 11 or 12 players in it. It splinters off through the middle, and Faletau goes close. They have an overlap to the right if they can get the ball out there quick. But they go in other phases. There's a couple of pick and goes, and eventually Jack Morgan, the captain, touches down. So it's just by the post, so easy enough conversion for Anscombe. So there with the clock in red, Wales take the lead 13-10 into half time. And in fairness, Wales probably had the better of the second half of the first half. Ireland started well. It looked like Ireland were going to pull away, but in fairness, Wales found their way into it. They're playing with a lot of confidence. I think just the new manager bounce did come into play, and they weren't afraid to make mistakes and take a few risks. They were playing with a lot more personality. So a really good performance by Wales, who deserved their lead. Probably based on that first half, they would have deserved to go on and win the game possibly. But 13-10 at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it was a half of two halves, really. I mean, Ireland started well. It started the way we kind of expected to. I don't think anyone was surprised that they kind of jumped to an early lead there. But I mean, you expected Mike Sharrett to come in, make some changes, and he set them up. He set them up with players he was familiar with, and he set them up. He had a 2-week run to set them up to play Ireland, and he knew what Ireland. You know what Ireland's going to do. Problem is, it doesn't do a lot of people any good because Ireland do it so well. But Wales were well set up on the day to. They knew they had to take their chances when they had them. They needed to be set up that when they saw an opportunity, they had to be ready to strike. And it took them a while to grow into the game. They were unlucky to lose their prop. He went off. Nicky Smith went off because of his mouth guard. The mouth guards now have a chip in them, and he was coming off the pitch furious. He was waving it in the air. It's like I never hit me head. What is this thing doing? Which was interesting because he went off because even though he didn't notice a head contact, but when there was a head contact on Ben Thomas for the red card, which I think, it was upgraded to red. I think they got the call right for what it's worth. But it was interesting. He didn't automatically do an HIA. I get the technology. I get the need for technology, but I think we should also have HIAs for players that are seen to get head contact like that, just to show that it's worth just checking out. But they always say, if in doubt, check it out. I was just surprised he didn't go off as well. But anyway, listen, they dominated the first half in the scrums. That's for sure. They were getting early penalties, and it was the scoreline. I don't think a lot of people putting bets on halftime, full times would have had that as a Wales lead at halftime, but they did indeed. And that the score at the break was Wales 13, Ireland 10. Now, before we return to the pod, first a little reminder of all the different places you'll find us in the Rugger Sphere, like our YouTube channel where we post extra clips, including this week. We hope to have a bonus pod looking ahead to the Women's Six Nations. To get access to all our latest content, as well as our presence on all the different social media platforms, you can bookmark us at linktree/Harpin On Rugby. We do most of our social media on Blue Sky, so do follow us there if you can. And please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe as needed. So after the players and officials returned to the pitch, referee Christoph Ridley confirmed the 20-minute red for Gary Ringrose. And with the match very much in the balance, it was Gareth Anscombe getting the match back underway. Predictable kind of kick tennis to start the half. It was tense when we started the second half. I mean, you'd expect them to be kicking it back and forth, teams kind of feeling each other out. But the problem we had in the early stages was both our halfbacks were kind of making questionable decisions. Like Sam ran himself into trouble. He got it, but then he got a bit lucky, and Tomas Williams kind of hit him with a high tackle. But then Gibson Park came up and took a quick penalty, a quick tap, which, I know you're doing it to win another penalty yourself, push them back, keep the defenders honest. But I don't know if that was the time we were still a man down. we wanted to see, to calm things down, just play a bit of territory. So he got a bit lucky in that we still won us a line out, and he was able to play it off someone else when he really wasn't going anywhere. So it was that line out to Ireland. But then after the next series of faces, you had Sam trying a wraparound that just didn't work. It wasn't happening. I can imagine Sexton watching, cringing as it fell to the ground. And from that moment, Wales did what you need to do against Ireland. If you're going to play against an Ireland team, you're going to have to play against this strong Ireland defense. If there's any sniff of a transition, you've got to take it. You've got to make hay while the sun shines. And Will Rowlands got hold of the ball and had a really strong carry from halfway, pretty much all the way to the 22. So now Wales are on the front foot. They had to make the most of it, and they worked this next series really well. They went out to the left. They did a couple of phases. They went to the left touchline. Maybe a questionable pass from Blair Murray to me. I know that sounds funny. Blair Murray passed it to me, and it was forward, but you know what I mean. But it was, let's just say it was flat and leave it at that. And then there was a strong carry from Will Griff-John, who I thought had a great game. So there they are. They're supplanted in the 22, but now they've got Ireland's defense retreating, and this is where they had to strike. And they really had this play ready to go, and they really did it well. It was west to east move. They had 3 dummy runners, 2 in the center blocking off the first couple of potential tacklers, but then the third blocker was Faletau. He perfectly positioned himself to stop Sam Prendergast getting to Blair Murray, who was doing the lap around him, and now he had plenty of space to get it out wide to the other wing. It ended up with Rogers. He still had a lot to do, and he had James Lowe covering there to make the tackle, but Rogers did that brilliant jump over the tackler, something James Lowe himself would do, and plant it down. It was a perfect finish, a really well executed try. But the thing about it is, it shows what you have to do. That entire series had to be a perfect storm for Wales to get this try. When you break it down, every single element had to be perfect. Strong Will Rowlands carry, perfect passes into the wide channel, then perfect blocking in the middle of the park, then the pinpoint passing from west to east, and then right in the corner. You needed that perfect finish. That's how you have to score against this Ireland team. And Wales did it. Fair play to them. And more crucially, they may have missed the conversion, but this established a 2-score lead. It was 18-10 with 42 minutes gone, and it really looked like we were under the pump there. Now the question was, how was Ireland going to respond? I mean, you talk about adversity. Well, this was it. At this stage, Baird came on for Conan, which was kind of a blow for us because Cian Prendergast was our only cover for number 8. I think Josh van der Fleer went there for the rest of the game. But anyway, more importantly, maybe it was something that was said behind the post after the try was scored. But from this moment on, Gibson Park and Sam really started to click, as well as our defense. So now, on our next possession, Sam found a touch in their 22. He just booted it ahead, pinned them back, because we know when our defense is set, it's hard to break down. So if you have possession, make them get past our defense or kick the ball back to us. That's what we want to do to keep them pinned. So we had a line out stolen by Rowlands, but Van der Fleer got it back. It was put to touch off a Welsh player, and there was that line out to Ireland. Ryan Baird took this one. Lowe did a crash into the 22. There were phases, and it was around those phases, having won the ball, we were making the right choices. I mean, we were picking and jamming the right ways. We got an offside penalty because the Welsh were trying to get at us. They got caught offside. So this gave Sam a kick. He puts it over the bar. Now it's 18-13. We've gotten ourselves back on the board. We've gotten back to within a score. We're still a man down, but there's still plenty of time left on the clock. Now, at this stage, Tom Clarkson goes off and Finlay Bealham comes on. I think this is a brilliant move. It was a good idea putting Clarkson ahead of Bealham. We had Bealham for those closing stages. And now also as well, from that restart, it was Gibson Park who started launching the most incredible exit kicks you've seen in your life. He said in an interview during the week he couldn't kick snow off a rope when he came to Dublin, but now he's like an expert at it. These exit kicks from deep in his 22, I mean, sometimes they went as far deep into the Welsh half. They were brilliant, okay? And he did one after that score. And then next we had Joe coming back on, having passed his HIA. Ryan was able to go back off for a bit. They swat back a bit later. And Gibson Park jackled a penalty midfield on the Wales' next possession. So now we have it in their half. We're on the front foot. And what happens next? That 20-minute red card is over and Bundee comes on. Now, I just want to say at this stage, I'm still against the 20-minute red. I want to make that perfectly clear. I am not a fan, okay? But in this game, a lot of people, so the Welsh press are complaining about it now. Shoe was on the other foot. I don't think they would be. But anyway, that's what I have to say now. Anyway, we have Bundee coming on, and what a sub to be able to bring on. Anyway, we have this line out. Joe crashes off it. Now, this series is where Gareth Anscombe picked up his head knock, which meant he was to go off. But anyway, we're still going with the territory game. Sam chips one into the 22, finds touch. There's a line out. We get a knock on from the scrum. We think we have a scrum in their 22, but unfortunately the replay shows that Joe had just about got Toby's hand before he touched the ground. There was like a millimeter in it, but it was the right call anyway. And this is where Anscombe realizes he has to go off, and he was never to return. Jared Evans came on. Now, he hasn't played for Wales in years. He's hurt Leinster in the past, that's for sure, playing for Cardiff. But it's from this moment that our defence really starting to put on the squeeze. Basically, the majority of our plays, their plays, with one exception, just ended up going nowhere, especially around midfield. So anyway, they had to kick the ball back to us, and after this next series of phases, Sam puts this peach of a 50-22. It was an unreal spiral. Blair Murray was well positioned. He was exactly where he should be at the 22. There was the width of practically a rugby ball between him and the touchline for the ball to find the line that it did, but it still got into touch. The thing with Sam is his kicks tend to start straight and stay straight, so you can almost tell off the boot exactly where it's going to go, and this one absolutely threaded the needle for that 50-22. Now the question is, can we avail of it? And what happens next is the line out goes to Tadhg Beirne. There's crash phases deep in the Welsh 22. We're on the front foot. We've got another penalty. I'm already celebrating. There's a penalty under the sticks. That's another 3 points. But when Gibson Park saw the ref's arm go out, he had other ideas. He looked up and chanced his arm with a crossfield kick. Now, the ball was going so high, even with James Lowe in the corner, I wasn't even thinking anything could possibly come of that while it was in the air. I just thought it was too high. But I was still celebrating for the 3 points under the sticks, right? I mean, that's crucial. 18-16, we're back in this game. But it turns out James Lowe also had other ideas. He steps back, jumps up, bats it down. In comes JB Osborne, catches and plants down. Try Ireland, 18-all, unreal. Try of the tournament, you might say. An amazing score. So we're right back in the game. Of course, you could say we had the extra man back on. It was a 20-minute red. But already before Bundee came on, we were starting to get control, I think. Our halfbacks were doing what they should do. Our defense was doing what we know it can do. But anyway, it was 18-all, 54 minutes gone. Sam unfortunately pushed the conversion wide, so the scores were level. Now, of course, this was always going to be a very cagey spell coming up, but you could still see Ireland was getting on top in defence. Bundee was unfortunate to ship a penalty at the halfway line on 57 minutes. Then, of course, it was around this time we got the picture you're seeing online of what I call Bundee, Bloody Bundee, where he's got this amazing warrior face, his bloody face, this determined look on him. You've probably seen that picture going around. But anyway, Ireland do ship a penalty for a neck roll. It was a bit of a silly one for Bear to give away, but we were still on top. Wales were trying to come at us with phases, but there was a knock-on, a scrum to Ireland. At that scrum, we won a free kick. Big clearance from Sam, finds touch in the Welsh half. You know, we were slowly getting on top in terms of territory. We were winning the kicking duels. Joe went back off at 64 minutes. James Ryan came back on. Nothing wrong with that substitution. 64 minutes. There's a line out. We go to Ryan Baird. We phases into the 22. They progress to the 5-meter line. Another penalty advantage. Offside. Similar situation. We're still going for the try, but Mac Hansen gets brilliantly held up by Blair Murray over the line. That was well done. It's a great stop by Murray. But we still go back for the penalty. Now at this stage, 65 minutes, 18-all, all talk of a bonus point is gone. Forget it. Forget the goddamn bonus point. Just win the game. I don't think anybody could have arguments with that. So Sam kicks the penalty, 21-18 to Ireland. Now the question is, what's going to happen now? Well, what happens next is that incident around the 22. Henry Thomas on Andrew Porter. Was there head contact? Now I have to be honest, I didn't understand, or maybe I just don't understand the guidelines anymore. What the officials seem to be saying to each other is that because the contact was chest to head, not head to head, but chest to head, then it's not foul play. I don't understand that. Maybe he meant he hit Porter's chest and it slipped up to his head, if that's the case. But surely if the contact is with the other player's head, no matter what part of his body does it, that has to be foul play. Anyway, I thought that was the whole point of the regulations. But listen, he called it the way he did. He said it wasn't foul play. But almost immediately after that, Bundee jackled a penalty at halfway. And the interesting thing about this was that it was at the halfway line. It was away from the black paint. I mean, the black paint of the Guinness logo at midfield is where the black was getting all over the Irish players' jerseys. But it was away from that, so it wasn't even central, right? But they had no hesitation of calling for a shot at goal. An amazing call. And not only that, but this is one where Sam hits it straight and true. I mean, you could see when it left his boot. And not only does it sail over the bar, but it's got loads to spare. You would have made it from 10 meters back. It was an amazing punt. And maybe it didn't hurt that the roof was closed. But anyway, I got to tell you, I think that might have helped a lot of his kicks. But anyway, now we've got a 6-point lead, and we hear the Fields of Athenry being sung through the stadium. Now, is that because the Irish fans are singing because they're happy Ireland's winning now? Or are we going back to the days when of Johnny Sexton, when he was playing and fans would sing that wanting O'Gara to come on? I don't know. I guess we'll never know. But listen, it was good to hear the Irish fans in full voice, and we built that 6-point lead. Next, we had Sam making what could have been a really costly mistake. From the restart, we had phased outside the 22. It went back to Sam. He tried to do another one of his long kicks, but this one went too far, went out in the full, which meant there was a line out for Wales back at the 22. Again, they used this opportunity to attack, to go after our defense. They had a line out maul. They had phases at the 22. They sent it out wide quickly, and then it was me. Did he get a try in the corner? Now, the question is, when he did it, it almost looked exactly like the try from the other end for Rodgers when it looked like he jumped over, dotted it down. It did look like a try. And the ref did give it, and I thought that was critical. But they did have the TMO look at it, and fair play to him. He said straight away, this is going to be tight. His name was Ian Tempest, and he had to take several looks at it. They had to do that rock and roll thing just to make sure. Now, the key was, first of all, where did he ground it? And was there any separation? Although I don't think they ever actually said the word separation in their chats, but that was the key for me in the end. He grounded it short, but even if he grounds it short, if he's got continuous contact with the ball, surely he can have some momentum, allowing for momentum to get it over the line. But it's the separation that's key, and that makes it a knock-on. And eventually they do call a scrum to Ireland, so it must have been a knock-on. Anyway, the try wasn't given. It was a huge let-off for Ireland. And next, there was another key moment, and then the Welsh front row just completely disintegrated at this next scrum. And, you know, I'm putting this down to Finlay Bealham. I don't know what goes on in that front row, and this is nothing against Clarkson, but I think at this stage, we had the stronger front row, and credits as well to Jack Boyle and Gus McCarthy, but the Welsh front row was just obliterated at that stage, and I think that was one of the biggest calls of the game, you could say. We got out of their 22, and we worked our way up the field. Now, the Welsh did have the ball at one stage at halfway as well, but they came up against our stubborn defense. This was around 76 minutes. It started with a catch. I think it was Jared Evans around halfway. Then they get pushed back. The Irish D tackle, single, double tackles, driving them back and driving them back again and again. Then eventually at a counter ruck back in their own half, you got a tackle from Josh, followed by Gus going in for the counter. Jack Boyle got involved. Sam Prendergast got involved. All four of them started going in on that counter ruck, and it's a penalty to Ireland. Again, no hesitation going for the kick. Sam kicks it straight. Sam kicks it true. 27-18. 77 minutes gone. 2-score lead. This game is over. Gibson Park is named player of the match. I think that's fair enough. I think overall, his contribution, his exit kicking, his jackling, his setting up that key try got us back into the game. I think that's all fair enough. It wasn't his best game, but I do think he was key to our having won it. From there, the game kind of fizzles out towards the end. Wales kept playing right to the end because they knew they could have picked up a bonus point had they scored. You almost feel like they deserved one, and I'm not denying that, but I just don't think there was any question that the better side won on the day. Anyway, what did you make of it, Kieran?
I thought there were a couple of big moments, and it was one that could have got away from us, and I think the biggest moment was probably Bundee Aki coming on. It's an interesting one because, overall, there was a lot of talk about the 20-minute red card, and would Ireland have lost this game if it had been a permanent red card and we had to play the whole game with 14? I don't know. We probably wouldn't have won it Wales probably at least take a losing bonus point out of it. But at the same time, I'm not a fan of the 20-minute red card. I maybe for some for some offences, but I think in this case, look, it was, and like I'm a big fan of Gary Ringrose. I think he's generally an excellent defensive player. It was a very bad tackle. It was head on head. I mean, it was a red card. I think they're right to go yellow and review, but because they have to see his body and all, they have to judge these things, and I think it's right to review it in the bunker rather than take 10 minutes of playing time looking out, did that player dip? How was that player's body? But look, it was a red card. I'm not a fan of the red card, but it's the rule, and it's the rule for everyone. So, I think there was a bit of sour grapes about how Ireland benefited from it. I think it's if it's the rule, it has to be the rule for everyone. There's probably a case to be made for saying, some offences are a 20-minute red card, almost an orange card, and some offences are a red card, which you get sent off for. But at the same time, Bundee coming on really changed the game. There was a moment I particularly liked where I think it was to make it 27-18 and put the game beyond Wales. Jack Crowley hands Sam the ball and pats him on the back and says, you've got this. And it's a far cry from the old days of Rog and Sexton, with Sexton taking the kick when Rog is coming on. It's nice, and that's what it has to be. It has to be players in it to win it. I was surprised. Bit surprised Crowley came on at fullback again rather than a fly half. One concern would be if he doesn't get time at fly half, he probably will be needed at some stage there, maybe against France, maybe against Italy. But it's just a potential concern if he hasn't got game time there, just because that might lead to some rustiness. But I think he did well when he came on. I'm very impressed by his attitude, because it would be easy to do sour grapes and not be a team player when you're playing, when you're hoping to be playing as a fly half. You're coming on as kind of a backup squad player. I think I think he still has the potential to start at times for Ireland as a fly half. I think he's a big player off the bench, but I think he has a great attitude. He's very professional, and sometimes you don't see that in young players. But eventually Ireland turn over and go for the posts to extend their lead. Penalty goes short from Prendergast. At this stage, the game is won, and it's probably right just to run down the clock and go for that extra 3 points for the points difference. In fairness, it looked like a tired kick. It was from a long way out. Prendergast has played 80 minutes. I don't think you can blame him for missing. But Wales play on. Eventually, it's knocked on, and Prendergast kicks out. So, I think Ireland had to show a lot of character in that half, and I think overall got the job done, I think you'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that that Crowley and Prendergast, all the nonsense we see online doesn't translate into the actual squad. I mean, it is a squad. They're a team. They're doing for the team. Crowley he does have that versatility. It does suit him. He can switch. He can switch positions when he starts at 10 as well. I know that, but it's handy. It is handy having him on the bench because he can cover multiple positions. But like I say, it's good to see them getting on. But anyway, listen. I think we've covered that a half as well as we can. And the final score was Wales 18, Ireland 27. Well, elsewhere in the Six Nations, despite Scotland outscoring England 3-1, they couldn't outscore them in actual points, as England got another 1-point win at Twickenham, albeit in very different circumstances. Considering Finn Russell is meant to be in the conversation for the Lions 10 jumper, you'd expect him to make at least one of the 3 conversions he missed along the way. Then on Sunday, it was when in Rome, score 11 tries for France as they recovered from a shaky start to pad their points difference considerably in a 73-24 win over the Azzurri. This leaves Ireland on top with 14 points, France 3 back, but that means even a 4-1 split in points for them in victory at the Aviva in 2 weeks' time will put them in pole position going into Super Saturday. In Bristol on Sunday morning, Ireland A fell to a 28-12 defeat to their English counterparts. The side, as originally named, lasted just the first few minutes as a series of HIAs and injuries to Diarmuid Barron, Shane Daly, Kieran Frawley, and Harry Byrne meant a lot of chopping and changing. Towards the end, skipper for the day, Max Deegan, was playing in the backline. Still, they managed a couple of decent enough tries from Shane Bolton and Hugh Gavin, and the experience will have done the squad good overall. In the under 20s, it was a frustrating round 3 for Ireland on a literal rainy night in Newport. Despite having most of the possessions and a near-perfect lineout, Neil Doak's Padawans couldn't break down a strong Welsh defence, losing 2012, and they now lie 4th on the Six Nations table, with England still leading the way. As for the sevens, it has been an unmitigated disaster for both Irish genders yet again in Vancouver. Only the men managed to win a match over the weekend, and even that only got them 11th place out of 12, while the women finished last, meaning both are in serious danger of being relegated out of the Elite Series, which now moves on to Hong Kong at the end of March. Finally, in the Women's Celtic Challenge, there were wins for all 3 top sides, setting up an exciting finish to the competition. Irish teams Wolfhounds and Cobras are first and second with 34 and 32 points respectively, but both must travel to play the Welsh outfit Gwalia Lightning over the next couple of weeks, and they have 30 points, so plenty of twists and turns left there. Going back to our feature match from Saturday, afterwards, Simon Easterby had this to say, quote, "The mark of this group, the players in particular, is that they always want to get better and keep striving to chase down things which maybe other things can't do," end quote. And from the fans' point of view, at the full-time whistle, Kevin Callahan said this on our Facebook page, quote, "Wales were so much better today, played with width and offloaded really accurately. Likely France only 3 points behind us after this weekend, which makes a win essential in 2 weeks' time," end quote. Do you disagree, or would you have said the same thing a different way? But we always leave a post open on the Facebook page after Leinster and Ireland matches. Why don't you join the conversation next time? And so this brings us to our final thoughts, starting with Kieran.
Yeah, I think if you look back at probably the last 15 years of Irish rugby, and maybe from a Leinster point of view as well, but from the men's point of view, it's been an outstanding success. It's probably been the most successful. I think it's been the most successful by the sounds of it Irish rugby has ever been. I'm not privy to what was going on in the early 1900s, but it sounds like it's certainly like it seems like it's a given to be in contention for the Six Nations. I remember the first kind of Six Nations. The first Six Nations I properly knew what was going on was probably when I was 9, around 2004, winning the Triple Crown for the first time in a long time was seen as the pinnacle of Irish rugby and the best it could ever get, and there was no hope of winning a championship as such. But now we're almost expecting Ireland to not only win games but win them very well and win them comfortably. And it's right to have standards. It's right to have standards, absolutely. But like there are going to be games like this where we were playing a buoyant Wales side who brought in a lot of their better players as well. The team wasn't as bad as the team that played France, so I don't think the games are directly comparable. We're playing them in Cardiff, and it's a tricky season for Ireland because as I think Simon used to be, I do rate him as a manager, but he's only been with this team for a very short period. So so at the end of the day, I think these are good wins as well that you need to get. You need to get these wins where you just show good character. You manage to get the job done. It's not always pretty, but sometimes you need to dig in. Ireland were 8 points down in that game and could have easily said, "Right, this is a nightmare. This is hard. Throw in the towel." But in fairness, they showed that. I know character and adversity are probably overused words these days, but that's what they showed. That bit of character. I thought, look, a lot of players didn't play to their best, but I thought they all dug in well and played as a team. Peter O'Mahony was excellent, Bundee was excellent, Jack Conan, Josh van der Fleer, Ty Byrne, very good. Jameson Gibson Park again, I think he's back to his best. We were saying that after last season, he probably in the early part of the season, he probably wasn't as good as he had been. I think he was excellent today, but considering just an Ireland team that had a few injuries, look, I'm happy with that. Six Nations is a tough competition. I mean, you have at least two away games against other tier one nations, and you're going to play, five tier one nations in a short space of time. There's going to be injuries, suspensions, things like that. So, in fairness, I think like to win in the end, the way we win, we had to dig in, had to kick a few penalties. It wasn't easy, it wasn't comfortable, but managed to get it. I actually think putting my Leinster hat on, I would have no problem if Leinster win a European Cup final like this. I mean, like I would have no problem if if Leinster had shown that kind of character in the European Cup last season, we'd be European champions, and it wouldn't be four finals lost in 6 seasons. So at the end of the day, if Ireland had won a World Cup quarter final in this manner, where it wasn't great, it wasn't easy, we had to dig in, then suddenly that's over too. So sometimes I think a flaw in particularly in Leinster rugby we have, and maybe it seeps into Irish rugby too, is we try to play a bit too nicely, we try to play a bit too fancy, we play a bit too romantically. Sometimes you just have to win the game. Kick a few points, win the game, beat Zebre 3-0. It's what happens sometimes. And we managed to do that without being great. We'll have to be a lot better against France. I don't think this France side is as good as they were before the World Cup, but they're still a very good side. I would still say they're very capable of beating Ireland. I'd hope it's a good atmosphere in that game in the Aviva. We will have to fix things, but look, I think every time if you look back at any team that's won a Six Nations era, there's always one game. Sorry, if you look back at any team that's won a championship by either winning 4 or 5 games, sorry, I forgot that word's banned. That's getting bleeped out. But if you look back at teams that win the championship, they generally have a game where things aren't going great. They generally have a game where things don't suit them. Not just Ireland, going back when Wales have won it, when in Italy, when France have won it, when England have won it. They generally have a game where things weren't easy and they had to dig in and it had to be a bit ugly. Ireland had that a few years ago in 2023. Last game against England was expected to be very easy. It wasn't at all. And there are times you just have to dig in and win a bit ugly. And to be honest, winning ugly is still winning. So yeah, probably would have been a game banked on, you would have banked on before the tournament to think 5 points. But at the end of the day, like we had to win the game, and we did so. So I think good character throughout, dug in to get the ugly win. We'll definitely need to be better, but not every game is going to be an amazing win. So yeah, I'm happy in the end to get the win.
Yeah, I mean, when you do podcasts like this over the years, and you deal a lot with people's opinions, and life would be very boring if we all had the same opinion. So you do want a kind of diversity of ideas and thoughts out there, but you you do have to wonder that when a team is winning, like winning a lot more often than not, that you think the fans of that team, when a game comes to an end and they've won, that your first reaction, the first, your top line takeaway from the game is like, yay, we won. I'm happy we won. That's the starting point. Now we get into analysis and says, oh, like we did this and that and the other in the next game. That's fine. But I can't wrap my head around the opinions out there where I almost got the impression from some people that they were disappointed that we won, all because they want other players to be playing. They think other players should be in the team, and that's fine. No, nobody's going to agree with the team that's selected. But maybe it's naive, but I think the idea is that you have your opinions. You think you should do this and the other, but when the game kicks off, you're up for the team. You want them to win, and then when they do win, at least be happy about it. I've seen comments from people online where they're looking for ways to they're talking as if all the Irish media and all the Irish fans are saying that Sam is perfect. He's the best thing since sliced bread. He does nothing wrong. That's not what's happening. He is making mistakes, but the team is still winning with him there, and he is doing good things. And we need to let him grow. And like you said when you were talking about the game, you said afterwards, you saw Jack Crowley helping him get along, encouraging him as he goes along. They're actually getting along on the pitch, whoever gets selected. And it really is frustrating to see. I saw one guy made a video of basically made a video of his mistakes, his defensive mistakes. He actually took the time. The game wasn't finished 24 hours before he was. And I've edited videos like this. So you take out certain clips. That takes ages to do. He spent all that time just to supposedly show that for some reason maybe he shouldn't be picked. You could make that video for any player in any match because no player does everything perfect in a game. It baffles me. I can understand criticism coming from outside. The Welsh press would be saying Ireland benefited from the 20-minute red card. That's fine, but it's coming from within Irish fans, and I just think for just eventually if there's some way we can just, I don't know, just chill out and go for and support the team. I know that's incredibly naive, but it's just infuriating to see it after when the team is winning. Obviously, the team is losing every week. I mean, you look at the Welsh team, the run they've gone through. You can have arguments all the like, this guy should be starting, that guy be starting. That's when you think that something's got to be wrong. But when you said yourself, the Six Nations, it's an attritional 7 weeks, 5 top quality matches, home and away, and to win the thing 3 years in a row is not an easy thing to do. We said that before the competition, and we're 3 matches in. We've got 3 wins. We've got France to come in the Aviva. It won't be easy. They've got a big points difference gap on us. We're going to have to stay ahead. But you still have to say that we've a good chance of winning that game. You still have to back this team with the way they're defending and stuff. And if you're not doing that, I don't know what rugby you've been watching over the past 3 matches. That's my little rant on that. But anyway, listen.
Just to come in on that, I think there's a section of, and it's across all the board. I'm not going to say it's, I'm a Leinster fan, there are sections of Leinster fans who don't have a good attitude. There are a section of Munster, Connacht, Ulster. They want to see their province doing well, but they don't necessarily want what's best for Irish rugby. They may say they want, but really what they want is for the best for their province.
I've seen that from Leinster fans too.
Oh yeah, for Leinster fans too. There are Leinster fans who weren't happy that Tyke Byrne was playing. I mean, he's a world class. He makes any team in the world at lock. I think like, I have no problem with it. Peter O'Mahony had an excellent game. Tyler he changed the game. Matt Canson was massive. I'd have no problem if Jack Crowley starts against France. I wouldn't even see it as Sam Prendergast being dropped. I'd just see it as rotation.
Absolutely.
I'd look at when Craig Casey's fit, I'd see him as our starting 9 for the World Cup. You're looking at Gibson Park's age. I just think some fans find it hard to acknowledge that, this is the Ireland team. This isn't about Leinster versus Munster versus Ulster versus Connacht. This is the Ireland team. They're all together. When it's provincial stuff, I want Leinster to win all the games. I want Leinster to do things. But I'll also acknowledge that it's important for Irish rugby that Leinster, Munster, Connacht, and Ulster are all strong and are all good
Mm.
provinces. So I would hope, like, if there was a way of all four making the playoffs, absolutely, I'd hope so. I hope Leinster ultimately win. I want that, but we can't have a position where one province is the best and winning everything, and then the rest of them are bottom of the table losing every week. That's not good for Irish rugby. So I think there's this kind of facade that a lot of groups of fans, including Leinster and from Munster, Ulster, and Connacht, where fans say they want what's best for Irish rugby. They put on a guise of we want what's best for rugby, and we're trying to do that. But really, what they want is what's best for their province, and for their province have the kind of dominance for Leinster. Because I would love if there were 8 to 12 um, players from each team, maybe 7 to 13 players from each team making up a 40-man Ireland squad. I'd be happy with that. That'd be great. I don't want it to be Leinster and friends. In fact, it would take some of the pressure off Leinster for the mid Six Nations games and the South African tour. But that's the way it is right now, and that goes back to a debate we had earlier in the season about developing academies and player pathways. But there just seems to be this weird begrudgery in Ireland where, well, if it's not my players doing it, I don't want to support the team. It just
Mm.
seems to be that weird begrudgery. So, yeah, I think it's maybe a natural thing, Ireland begrudgery. We know it's there, but I think it's that kind of bias of, look, support the team, support Ireland, support what they're doing. They're all playing for the jersey. And in fairness, like, I don't think any of the players have that kind of rubbish when they're playing for
No.
Ireland. Like, if Leinster were playing Munster tomorrow, there'd be plenty of rivalry and plenty of getting at each other. But I don't think Peter O'Mahony and Caelan Doris are getting into a scrap. I don't think Conor Murray and Jamison Gibson Parker are getting into a scrap. I think they all want to play for Ireland and win the game. So, look, debates about selection are going to happen. And as I said, there's probably more than one strong team that Ireland could put out. I think we're lucky that we have more than 15 plus 8 good players. But yeah, I think it's a problem. And Ireland won the game at the end of the day, and there was a time where we didn't do that very often. So I'm happy enough with it. It wasn't easy, it wasn't perfect, but I don't think particularly targeting a young player who's in his first Six Nations, saying it was all his fault that we only won by a little bit. It's just, and these are coming from people who said that they didn't want him to start because they wanted to protect him from the public eye, and there's just always this bias. But yeah, it's frustrating. But at the end of the day, I think it comes from every province. I'll say that as a Leinster fan, including Leinster. But we need a strong four provinces, and we need a strong Ireland team to make rugby work. And regardless of who's playing, they're playing for Ireland. So we have to, whether they're from which province they're from, including New Zealand and South Africa, whatever province they're from, we have to get behind them.
Yeah, I mean, you want coaches to say, "There's your squad, there's your players. Pick the best team from the pool of players, and don't be thinking about quotas for provinces in the team. And if you accept that, there's a chance there's going to be a team that's heavily. There's only 4 provinces. There's a chance there's going to be one of them that's going to have that could have most of the players. There's a chance maybe one province won't have any players. But then you look at the A International; they are trying. They've got a tour to South Africa in October or November last year, whenever that was. They had a tour, the Emerging Ireland Tour, and then they had this A. They are giving them opportunities to play in green, which is a risk in itself because that's injuries that could lead to injuries that'll affect the provinces in the URC. So like there's a balance to be made, but I just when the green jersey goes on, can we just support the team? Like I said, especially when they're winning, and this is a game they won, and we're happy about it anyway. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, listen, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks, Kieran, for joining me. Hope to have you back on again soon, man. Best of luck.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, Jeff. Just to say on Post Sport, I'll have I'm doing monthly features on the World Cup qualifiers. So obviously 4 teams from the Rugby Europe Championship have already qualified, seeding TBD, based on next week and 2 weeks' times games. So you can click on that. It'll be on the Rugby Union section on postpost.sport.blog. Full feature roundup of all 5 regions of rugby qualifiers. So have a look at that, and Rugby Bullets regular feature as well on the website, so you can have a read of that. And even if I'm not on next week, please still tune into Harpin On Rugby.
Thanks a million. And listen, we'll put that link in the program notes as well. Thanks a million. As for our next batch of Harpin, we'll have a special pod during the week talking about women's rugby. Then we'll go back to our 80 plus column posting on Wednesday before turning attention back to the URC with Cardiff coming to the Aviva next Saturday. So please be sure to follow us on any or all of our social media platforms, which you'll find at linktree/Harpin On Rugby. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.